What was your like main driver at that point?
Money. I always wanted loads of money.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the money and financial part, so with your dad, what wisdom was passed down from your dad?
The distrusting of banks and never holding cash is the one big thing that he's always told me. My dad hates banks. Get into good shape to go on TV. Even though I was in the best shape that I could possibly be in, like in that short space of time, it was still like I carried around a lot of this insecurity around it. I'm scared of it. I won't ever keep more than 100 grand liquid actually on hand. Yeah.
Beyond like wealth and money and like the lifestyle and all that, like who is the Jonny behind all of that? Nice, bro. Whenever you're ready.
We got lightheaded on that
There
first
we go.
one. It's like,
Now we're
ooh.
like, woo!
I don't know what's happened to me since I got in Bali. It's probably a little bit of jet lag, but
Yeah.
every time I stand up, I'm getting like, oh shit, I need to sit down again. I'm getting like lightheaded, and that's what I just got then with
Really?
the first one.
With
All
the
good.
energy going up, yeah, we're good.
Just getting old, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, bro, thanks so much for coming on and let me into your villa as well. Like, it's so cool to be here.
Thanks for making the journey down anyway, saving me the traffic.
Yeah, man. And like, what a space. First of all, like,
Nice, huh?
Yeah.
It's my first time seeing it in the flesh. And yeah, it was like a mind-blowing moment when I pulled her out the front, because I've always traveled quite a lot and like stayed in nice places, but it was weird showing up and being like, oh, fuck me, I actually own this place. It's pretty cool.
yeah, man. And what was the building time for this?
It took longer than expected. It was supposed to take just over a year. It ended up being about 18 months, something like that. It did go quite a bit over. Created like a few issues as well between us and the builder, and yeah, it was like a whole thing. So we did go over a little bit. We'd have preferred to finish building and sell last year, and then yeah, we ended up finishing around Christmas, and yeah, we've actually just sold it. So
Mega.
place is gone.
Congrats, because like in Bali, it's one thing building, and then it's another thing she's selling here, right?
Yeah.
So
Finding the right buyer for something this big and in this kind of price range. I think Bali, and also probably Dubai as well, is probably the only places where you're going to find people who actually lay that much cash down, because it's just a 30-year leasehold. You know, you can get an extension on it, obviously, but you have to renew the lease and pay it again after 30 years. So, yeah, it's for me personally, I don't know if I'd be dropping that kind of money on something that I didn't own for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But apparently, people do. So
Got a lot of cash.
Yeah, got some serious cash. Yeah, the guy's
Yeah,
from Dubai as well, so I'm assuming he's got a few pennies handy. Well, clearly. So,
Yeah. Nice. Well, obviously we were just chatting before this, and I want to start like with your current lifestyle, like where you're at, because it's just freaking cool.
Thank you.
So like what is your lifestyle like at the moment? Like when it comes to you see building here, got your Forex stuff, like but lifestyle in general, what's that like for you?
Lifestyle right now is kind of like, it's a byproduct of how I always wanted my life to be, really. It's not exactly at its apex right now, but I'm slowly just kind of putting the things in place that I always wanted over time. The only thing that I've got right now that's not where I want it to be is my location for actually living. But yeah, things are good. You know, I'm able to fly out here to Bali. It's been obviously a year and a half. I wish I could come in more frequently, but yeah, and see like the building. Me and my business partner Sam, we've got more land, so we're going to continue doing this. I'm still going to have like a hardline connection to Bali, which is going to be good. I'm in Dubai a lot. I've got property out there. I've got obviously a lot of friends. Me and my wife, we live in Budapest right now. Got a beautiful place there. We wanted to experience a little bit more of Europe after being in Bali for such a long time. Just go to the complete polar opposite. And yeah, life's good. I'm enjoying, you know, life with my wife. Get to enjoy each other's company, make each other happy. I enjoy taking nice trips. We're going all over Europe again, which is something that I haven't done before.
The jets, the watches. And
Exactly. Yeah, and I get to splash on things that I would never normally do. It's a very difficult barrier for me to like spend big money on things like watches, because I always wanted these things, but I could never imagine myself dropping like 80 grand on a watch when I could literally like buy a house with that in Bali pretty much, or put a deposit down for one in Dubai or something like that. So it's good that things are getting to that sort of stage now where I am able to just kind of splash on things that are a complete fucking waste of money, but I know that it's not going to be damaging. Like if I didn't have the money, I wouldn't spend it, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. And I think for like the people listening in, it's like, wow, like this lifestyle and this creation of like what you've done. I'm like fascinated to find out what's gone on behind the scenes in order to create the lifestyle that you've got now.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's like, there's a mindset behind it. Like there's all this stuff that goes into living how you are now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's been a long journey. I'm 34 now, and I'm into trading. So I've been trading for approximately 10 years. Started in 2014, just before 2014. I was always obsessed with getting out of the UK. I was always obsessed with tax as a young kid, and like that was like my main driver. I'm from quite an entrepreneurial family. They were always very supportive of me to go out and start businesses and travel. Actually, my parents started their first business when they were like 18 years old in Thailand, just like a super random business, importing woodwork from China. But it made quite a lot of money for them back in the, I don't know, like fucking 80s maybe. I have no idea. So I had a lot of support. But before that point, before my 21st birthday, I didn't have like a ton of direction. So I always wanted to go and travel, always wanted to get out. And the tax thing was like a real driver for me because I never really enjoyed the idea of it, even at a young age. Because I was like, I don't get it. We have to pay how much to these people? And I get most people come to that realization a little bit later on. But for me, I just didn't understand the concept if other countries didn't have that as strict or something like that, because there's a lot of places that I discovered that are much easier for businesses to flourish, especially new businesses, and they have it and they have a system where it actually encourages the growth of it after, rather than heavy taxation. And the place that I ended up landing on was Hong Kong. So I moved to Hong Kong when I was 21, started a clothing business with my ex-girlfriend. She was a clothing designer. Do you remember River Island? Yeah. Is River Island still about? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
She was a print designer for River Island, and she wanted to start her own brand. So we did it. We had like, I don't know, probably 30 grand between us, something like that. Went out to Hong Kong, started this business, and it failed like really quickly. I was very uneducated with marketing. I kind of thought back then, this is in the infancy of like Instagram and everything. I thought you just pay an influencer to promote it and you're just going to sell out all your stock or something like that. And I learned very quickly that wasn't it. So I'd allocated a certain amount for marketing, which I ended up needing a lot more. And the business kind of tanked, yeah. So it was very, very soon. But actually setting up the business in Hong Kong, that was like a real eye-opener for me, just seeing how things are done, seeing how business is done in mainland China, because that's where our suppliers were for the actual garments as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got completely fucked in China pretty much, because I was just like this young white guy going out there and everybody's like rubbing their hands together.
Come here.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like a real learning curve. And that's where I fell in love with Asia as well, because I loved the lifestyle in Hong Kong, because it felt kind of like home as well. You've been to Hong Kong?
I've not, no. No, but it's on the radar. Hong Kong keeps popping up at the moment.
It's a really cool destination because England owned it up until 1989. So you get a lot of home comforts there. There's two sides to it. There's the island side, which is like being in the city of London or New York or whatever. Very clean, big buildings. Everyone's like dressed in suits. And there's the other side, which is Kowloon, which is the Chinese side. And you get to experience like real kind of Asia, you know, like street markets and just kind of the craziness of Asia. So it was like a nice little stepping stone, I guess, to kind of really fall in love with Asia. I left there eventually because it was too expensive for me after the business tanked, and in the end, that's when I ended up in Thailand. I was in Bangkok for a couple of years, and that's where I started trading originally. Yeah.
And then you started your trading business, and this was all after you left school early, right?
Yeah, I left school at 16.
Yeah. Well, for you, the education system, like, did it just not resonate, or?
I was quite bright when I was a kid. I don't know why. Like when I was young, like in primary school, I was always pretty good. I don't know why. I don't know what changed. But then when I got to secondary school, I think the environment wasn't right for it, because that's where everyone's just fucking about. You know, English schools, there's bullying. There's people who just don't really want to learn. Yeah. And I was one of them as well. Like I got there, I didn't like the teachers. And the environment that school, like I viewed school back then, is the same environment that I see like the government now, you know? It's like you've got one track to go on. There's no room for any deviation. You got a good idea, great, but if it doesn't fit into this little box that we've created for you, then fuck your idea, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's perfect to create people like employees.
It's perfect to employ just like, clones, basically.
Yeah, where you're like, hey, I need to go to the toilet.
Exactly.
Sit down, be
school
quiet.
Uniform. And now that I look back on it in retrospect, it's fucking wild, really. That,
it's crazy.
We do that to kids as well.
Yeah.
Because I used to wake up in the morning.
So well calculated. Like the way it's all
It's
put together.
It's orchestrated in a certain way to make these kids grow up, get a job, pay tax, buy a house, be in debt for the rest of your life, retire at 65, get a couple of good years in on a beach somewhere, maybe. Depend. I mean, these days probably not. What's the retirement age now? Like 70, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What the fuck can you do at 70? You know. No offense to anyone that's 70.
Yeah, but imagine working all your life. And
Yeah.
then you're like, right, now I'm 70. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck, now my knees hurting.
And that's
hips
if
are hurting.
whatever goes on in the world over the next couple of years doesn't completely destroy any chance that they've got of ever retiring anyway, you know? So
what part of you was like, right, I'm getting out of school? And were your parents all good with that? Or
my parents broke up when I was 9 years old, and I ended up living with my dad. And my dad was like a very laid back, cool dad. And he noticed in me that I was waking up in the mornings and I was like feeling physically sick. Like, I don't know, you know, when you wake up and you got surgery or something like that, and the thought of actually going in, you're like sick to something. I was getting it like every day. And I didn't have the best time in school, but I wasn't like savagely bullied or anything like that. I just genuinely just didn't enjoy the experience. And I just couldn't wait to get out of there. And I told my dad, and he was like, just leave school. Like, don't worry, just leave school. You know, in the UK, you have to do like a certain amount of education after. So I did like home tuition for like, I think just maths, English, science after that. And then, and my grades were great at the end of it. I still did the GCSEs and my grades were spot on. So it's an environmental thing. That's it. And something about that didn't click. And yeah, now that I can make that synergy between how I feel about, you know, governments and taxes in places like the UK and everything like that, it's exactly the same thing. It's like there's no room for you to have an imagination. There's no room for you to be creative. There's no room for you to flourish as a human. And that's why I got the fuck out of there. Yeah, it was the best thing I ever did, for sure.
And like with your dad, so your dad, was he, at that time, was he like sharing this stuff with you as well? Like, hey, like I would recommend going on your own path, or because he was very successful in himself, right?
My dad's a successful guy. He's been into property since, I don't know, probably like the late 70s, early 80s, something like that. He's always been a property guy. He's always been interested. He's been a big investor, trading, that kind of thing. He'd always encouraged me and my brother to learn this stuff from when we were kids. Taught us the stuff that they weren't teaching in schools. You know,
like what specifically was he
like
teaching?
How to get a mortgage, you know, how to not fuck up your credit at a young age, these kind of things, you know. And obviously I still do as well, but I'd always looked up to my dad and kind of what he was able to achieve, because my dad came from absolutely nothing. You know, he's a Dagenham guy. He's the first one in his family to ever make millions, and he's very unconventional. You know, he's a typical East Londoner. He's rough around the edges. He's a bit stubborn. He's very blunt. And I just kind of always like thought he's the fucking boss, and I want to be like him. So he told me always to travel. He was like, just travel, because you're going to learn so much more than you do here. My dad's story, when he was backpacking in Asia with my mum when they were like 18 years old. They're in Chiang Mai. They're backpacking up this road, trying to hitchhike. Guy in a van pulls over. He's a Thai guy. He had like a thick Cockney accent. Like, all right, mate, how you doing? And they were just like, what the fuck's going on? They jump into the car. They start talking to him, and he was like, you know, chatting away. And he's like, I live up the road, and I have like a woodwork factory. And you know what Thais are like? They're super friendly. Like, why don't you come in and, you know, have a drink, have something to eat, something like that. This is a story being regurgitated. Obviously, I wasn't there. And then they got there, and he had this big factory, and he was like making woodwork. Chiang Mai used to be huge for woodwork until they chopped down the whole rainforest, and it was like one of the hubs of Asia for it. And my parents used to work on Covent Garden Market selling shit on there, you know. So they basically nicked an idea from someone else. You know how these things go, where it was like 3D decoupage, and they're basically layered pictures, like the most random thing I know. So it's like a picture like that, but you use a scalpel to cut certain bits out, and it looks 3D, and it was called 3D decoupage. And they started buying off this guy, selling him on the market, and then they got like a huge contract in Japan. They basically did the Olympia. They did a trade show at the Olympia. A very, very big Japanese buyer basically signed a contract with them, and they did business with these guys for like 10 years.
Wow.
Until the Chinese just took over completely. But they were doing business with them. They made millions from that. So it's just like, my dad was always like, you never know when these opportunities are going to come from, but you don't see as many in a place like England. You know, when you're traveling, when you're seeing how other people do business, how they interact, how the world works, literally in other places, you're going to get 1,000,001 ideas, and one day you're just going to meet people, and things are going to fit, and that'll be it. And it took a while, but it did work. Like my business partners now, they're based in Malaysia. So
yeah, like you're all over the shop, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That was like passed down from your dad.
I would say so, yeah. My mum, I love her to bits. She's great, but she was always more in favor of like the educational route, school, college, university, that kind of thing. Not that she would ever stop me from doing it. You know, she's like a very supportive mum, obviously. But yeah, I think the idea to really kind of like go out and take the risk, try and build a business, that was from my dad. Yeah. And I failed a lot. Like I fucked up quite a few businesses.
Yeah, so you had that first business with the clothing stuff.
Yeah.
And then after that?
After that is when I started trading. That's when I was
Yeah.
trading personally. From that was like a rocky road, but it didn't take too long for me to. I mean, I was young. You know, I was living in Thailand. I could survive off of very, very small amounts of money then. Now, but small amounts, but it felt like a big amount back then. You know, it was good, and I built up quite quickly. Then I started investing into real estate because that's kind of all I knew from my dad. Like, he's a big property guy. He's like, don't keep cash in the bank. Just make sure you're investing it in something good. Started investing into property. From there, we turned all the properties into care homes. So supported living care homes for learning disabilities, mental health. I went on TV. After I came off TV, I opened my trading company in London. After 2019, I stepped down as a director from that. I got out of the company there. Then I met the coaching masters, which I know you know. But actually, even after TV, I tried a few things. I think I had like a talent company at one point. I can remember just the managers that people get. They're just vultures, you know, and they just don't do anything. And they take like a commission on top. And I was like, these guys are fucking useless. I can do a better job. So I tried that as well, but it was too much hassle, to be honest, but not enough money.
Right.
I've done a lot. Yeah, there's been like a lot of things, but the ones that I've actually flopped, they were, yeah, just kind of like the generic things, you know, like, oh, I'm going to start importing stuff from Asia and try and sell it, or, you know, they're the ones that most people try, which if you really double down on it, it can be quite successful, but just for whatever reason didn't work out for me.
Like people listening will probably be like, you've actually tried a lot of stuff, and I think this is where it's easy to think, oh, someone's living this lifestyle and they got it easy. It's like actually the amount that you've had to fail. Like on those journeys, were there like what fears or discomforts did you have to drive through in order to actually take the risks that you took?
The main driver for me was actually feeling shame and embarrassed in front of like my family, because no one wants to fail at shit, do they? Like, the truth is, when I used to fuck something up, I'd probably just keep it to myself, because I was so young and versatile there, you know what I mean? If I had to survive off pot noodles in Asia, or whatever the fuck they're called, super noodles in Asia for a couple of months, I just didn't give a shit. Like, I felt so invincible. If something didn't work out, I could climb back up and I could do it again. But yeah, the main thing for me was having to sort of like go home and kind of admit I'd fucked it up and ask for help and that kind of thing. And I always would get help if I needed it. And I did get help initially, you know, with a lot of things. And even my care home business in the UK, like, I don't do anything for that anymore. It's completely sustained and run by my dad and my brother. And so yeah, obviously I still have like the help there if it's needed, which is obviously what family's for. But I was never too worried about failing myself. It was just having to go to people and be like, I didn't want to go back with my tail between my legs. I wanted people to think like, okay, he's gone there, he's done it, he's become successful. And that was the main driver for me. But yeah, obviously.
How did you navigate those times? Like in the times where you had set off on a journey and you're like, right, this is going to be the thing. I remember you saying where you said to the people back at home where you were like, I'm going to I think to Bali, and I'm like, I'm going to be like create so much success and be a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, there's when I went to Hong Kong,
right?
Because, you know, back then, I'm fucking old. I hate saying back then, but like when I left, which was literally like nearly 15 years ago, something like that, people didn't travel that much. I can remember going to Bali when like 2014, 15, something like that. My friends had never even heard of Bali. How old are you?
I'm 29.
You're 29. Okay, so you're not too far off me. But yeah, back then people just didn't do it. Now you drive through Canggu and there's like 20-year-olds living here. You just didn't really get it back then. So when I'd said it to my friends, they were like, oh, what do you want to go and do that for? Like, no, just stay put here. Like, it's not necessary. And I was like, no, I've got it in my mind. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and I'm going to smash it. And yeah, the thought of me having to come back and be like, I fucked it up, it was unacceptable for me.
Right.
So that was it. If something didn't work out, or I hit a blip, I hit a speed bump, I would just retreat inside myself. I'd buckle down, I'd reduce my expenses, and that was it. And I've consistently done that. But the good thing is that my money's grown over time. So every time that I do have to sort of like dial things back, it's still up to a pretty good standard, you know? Like when I look at my pictures from when I was like 23, 24, it looks like I was doing quite well, but I probably wasn't. It was probably one of them things where I was making it look better than it actually was. Yeah, for sure. Like, it's probably one of them things where I was spending as much as I could to maintain what I had and also still keep a good image up. But Instagram wasn't as big as it is now anyway. So.
Yeah. What was your like main driver at that point?
Money. I always wanted fuckloads of money.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's probably not the right image for the podcast or anything.
It's the truth. Like, because what does money actually mean to you? Because it's like, it's all right having loads of money, but like, you could look at the bank and then it's
Yeah.
like loads of digits, but there's often there's something deeper with what money actually is. Like
Sure,
whether it's
sure.
freedom or
Yeah.
so you can treat your family or
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, when you do start making a lot of money, there is really nothing better than being able to treat the people who have obviously looked after you and everything like that. But yeah, for me, the main driver was money. I always just wanted to be filthy rich. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be able to detach myself from anything that was like, you have to do this. And that's kind of where I am now. That's why I like not being in the UK, because they're like, oh, you want to live here, you got to do this, and this. I'm like, well, fuck you, I ain't going to live there then. We're going to live somewhere else where they're actually, they've got some brains and they know how to look after people and kind of build a good infrastructure for the people that live there and not just kind of put them in this rat race. So yeah, for sure. It's always been money. Now that I'm a bit older, like the money means something completely different to me now than it did before. Now it means stability. It means like a good future for my family and my wife. And yeah, just being able to, hopefully in a day not too soon, like if I decide that I don't want to work, I'm just not going to work anymore. You know, it's not going to be a problem. That would be nice. I don't think it's ever going to happen fully.
Yeah.
But you know,
but having the choice.
Having the choice.
That's the big word, isn't it? It's choice.
Correct. Yeah, I don't want to feel trapped ever. I've been there before, and I don't want to get to that stage where I feel like there's no way out or anything. You know.
Yeah. So I'm curious when I was younger, I was like big into the gym and training and all that stuff. And one of the things that I noticed, and this is why I'm sort of sharing this, because I think it resonates. But so when I used to go to the gym, I got in like unbelievable shape where I like looked down, I had like 8 abs and all that stuff and was shredded. And I was like, wow. And yeah, I would still look in the mirror and be putting myself down or would never feel like I was actually like where I should be or like I had like this body image thing, which was, and I noticed that before you went on TV, like there was some of that stuff that came up. Like, would you mind like diving into that?
Of course not, no. I mean, I was actually like a very overweight kid. I don't know what the fuck happened, to be honest with you, but like, okay, so when I was really young, I was super sporty and I was super skinny. Like, I was like the fastest runner in my entire school. And then when I got to like 16, I put on like a lot of weight. I got very, very overweight. And, you know, there's obviously correlations there. I'm not sure exactly what ones, but it was around the time that I left school. So I don't know if it was just like a lack of activity or what, I have no idea, but I put on a lot of weight. And I was like 16 stone when I was like 16 years old, which is quite big, you know. Like I weigh like, what do I, how much do I? I'm like programmed for kilograms now, so I don't even know. But
so you were 16 stone.
Yeah.
So that would probably be like over about 100.
Yeah, around that
there,
at 16, which is crazy because I'm like 20 kg less than that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came with a lot of challenges, and I got like stretch marks, and which are never going to go away, but I just kind of got used to them and everything like that. And yeah, being able to like get into good shape to go on TV, even though I was in the best shape that I could possibly be in, like in that short space of time, it was still like I carried around a lot of this, insecurity around it and that kind of thing. And
I really resonate, man. Like that was, so similar. When I was young in school, like I was like big. Like, they used to call me Sammy the Rock Church.
Right. Fucking hell.
Like when I'd play rugby, I'd be like this big guy, and it was kind of had its upsides because you could just like run through people.
I used to play rugby as well. Same shit. Yeah.
But I was big, and then there was one summer where I like went on this big transformation, started going to the gym, and I went back, and people like couldn't recognize me. They were like, what? But like I realized how much insecurity I held from like being a big kid, you know. And then even going to the gym, I'd try and look good for that to go away. But I actually realized it was more of an internal acceptance piece, rather than actually what I look like, you know?
Agreed. And like so much of it is internal as well, I think, even from like the visual, because like it's so confusing when you look at yourself one day and you're like, you look great, and then you can look at yourself like 6 hours later and think, oh, what have I done? And it's like, what am I seeing what everyone else is seeing or what?
Yeah, or is it just like this inner critic that's beating yourself
just constantly
up?
there? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've grown out of it. Mostly, to be honest with you, but that's also because, like, you know,
what was your journey of growing out of it?
I think being on TV helped.
Yeah.
Well, it helped and it didn't help because obviously the public have scrutinized everything. You know, if you're a little bit overweight compared to the other guys, they're like, fat motherfucker.
If you've got an insecurity and then you're on TV, then people are pointing that out. That's going one way or the other, right?
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I do have a thick skin. Like, I don't know where it comes from, but I always compare what people are saying to the actual reality. And if the reality is not good, then it might be a bit shit. But actually, my reality is pretty sweet, you know? So, yeah, the actual journey with that, it took a while, but it definitely improved after TV. To be totally honest with you, this is going to sound like a real fucking wrong thing to say, but money actually helped a lot.
Yeah.
Because, and this is like a real crutch that I've used, but I can remember when I didn't have a good time in school and I was getting like a little bit bullied and stuff like that. And I can remember saying to my dad, like, I don't want to go to these places anymore. Like, I'm not enjoying it. I'm overweight, especially when I got overweight as well. And he was like, you know, this is a really bad thing to say, but he was like, trust me, mate. He's like, you know, when you're older, in like another 10 years, he's like, if you're successful, none of this shit, no one cares when you get older. He's like, it's only kids that care about this shit. He's like, as long as you're successful and you've got money when you're older, guys, you're not going to give a shit about being a bit overweight, I promise you. And it kind of always stuck with me. I think that's why I was so laser focused on money when I was younger, because I was like, you know what, like, it doesn't fucking matter what I've got right now. If I can make a success out of myself, it will change things. And obviously that's not the crux of it. That's not the truth. There's so many different elements involved.
It's a belief that you held, right?
It's a belief, yeah.
Yeah.
And like with the way that the world is now, you know, realistically, if I'm a bit overweight, who fucking cares? Like, life's good. I've made myself a success and I'm happy. I've got like a beautiful wife and I've got a great life. So
yeah,
it's them things, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think of that with like relationship with food. So like during that time, because there's a reason behind it. Like, it's not just like pummeling food for no reason. Like, there's a reason why it's like, maybe at that point, like over consuming. For me, like during that period, I realized later on that a lot of it was just emotional stuff. Like, you know, that I would maybe have an insecurity, not know how to handle maybe something that had happened at school. And then I'd go home and then I'd like just eat a lot of food. I didn't obviously know that at the time, but after, yeah. So I'm curious, like, what do you, at that time, what was going on for you that caused?
I guess there was like, it's very difficult to say, if I'm being totally honest, because I was at such a young age. I could put it, I know that I had a lot of like anxiety around my direction, but that was probably a couple of years later. That was like when I turned 18 and I was like, what am I actually going to do with my life? Like, what am I going to do? And I know that there was like a lot of stress around me around, you know, what I was actually going to be doing. But back then it probably was just like a bit of social anxiety. I didn't feel like I was popular. I didn't feel like people particularly liked me that much. And I guess it was just easier just to eat. Yeah, I don't know. And I just had like no activity really, you know, like I used to play a little bit of sport on the side, but for the most part, I wasn't going to school anymore. I was just staying at home. I lived in Essex, Southend.
Yeah.
It's a shithole, you know. I'm not going out all the time on the streets on my own and stuff like that. So I just didn't really get out much. Maybe that's it. But honestly, to be totally frank with you, I couldn't really zero in at this stage on what the driver was for my overeating or anything like that.
Yeah.
Maybe some genetics as well, because my brother also was quite overweight at that age, and we both just lost it at the same time as well.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
So then, so when coming off, when you went on TV and then coming off, like, what was that experience like for you?
It was interesting because
specifically around the way that you deal with hate. Because I just find it fascinating. So many people who've, you know, in the businesses that I've done and stuff, it's like hate is one of those things that really holds you back. Because it's like, if someone doesn't like me, and then they put it on yourself, like on your own worth, and then it's like, right, so then you don't move forward. Whereas you're like, well, what is your perspective around hate?
You know, when I came off that show, obviously it was a very frosty reception. You don't really know what's going to happen because no one shows you on the actual show. You're kind of always a firm believer that what you're doing and saying on there will be understood in the way that you've meant it. You know, no one goes on there and thinks I'm going to be a fucking arsehole. Maybe they do now. But back then there wasn't any media training. But before I went on the show, I was successful and I had like a pretty good public image. I was always traveling. It was clear I had money. I lived in nice places. I traveled on nice flights or anything like that. So I was already somewhat used to the fact that people were a little bit frosty to that kind of thing being put out there. People see it as showing off rather than just sort of displaying that you've got a nice life or posting whatever. So I was kind of already adapted to that when I came off. But the way that I processed that, God, I don't even know. It just didn't feel like something that mattered too much. To be totally honest with you, I came off and like, you've either got to embrace that kind of shit and make the most of it, or you've got to let it just kind of eat you up. And I thought, there's not really anything I can do at this stage to make these people happy. So the only thing that I can do really is embrace it. And that's exactly what I did. And it was a great way to help it process because I could kind of just do what I wanted. You know, I wasn't really that fussed about upsetting people anymore, because I'm like, they can't dislike me any more than they already do. And also having like a good life, having good people around you, it helps a lot as well, because I don't really care about impressing people to that extent. And even the shit that I did post, it was almost like, like the luxury stuff at that stage, it was almost kind of nice that it was winding people up. Because I'm like, this is a nice little connection here. I know why you're pissed off. And I've got it ever since. Like, it hasn't ever ended. And I don't know. I think as long as you are happy to embrace it, as long as you're happy to continue doing what you're doing and not let it affect it, eventually it just becomes part and parcel, and you realize that people do it because they're just a little bit wound up that you're doing something that they probably wish that they could do as well. And I know it's a generic thing to say, but it's kind of the truth, Like, I look at people sometimes that are doing better than me. I have like something inside me that's like, oh, I can't believe he's got it. I don't. I think everyone kind of gets that a little bit. I'm not going to go and write a comment on the dude's page and bring him down. I'm like, how can I measure up with this guy? What can I do to get to that stage? And I've done it consistently my whole life. I look at people that I look up to, and I look at the people that I'm surrounding myself with, and make a judgment on that. And I think, what do I need to do to elevate myself to get to that stage? Whether it's through different networks, whether it's through different businesses or anything like that, it's been consistent. Yeah, my whole life.
Yeah, to actually like think of the person who is sat behind a screen.
Yeah.
Like, go into someone's page, opening up their page, watching a video, and then saying like horrible stuff underneath. Like, what must be going on internally for them, like, to just even go through that process. Yeah. It's like actually kind of upsetting that someone's in that place.
It is.
Yeah.
It's too accessible to do as well. And there's not really anything you can do about it. I'm definitely not in favor of people being like charged criminally for comments they make on social media or anything like that. But then at the same time, there's no accountability at all. Like, when you talk to, if I called you a prick right now or something like that, there's accountability because you're sitting right here. But on the other end of the computer, they're like what? So it's just the world we live in. And I'm not a massive fan of it, but at the same time, I'm here for the engagement. I'm here for the clicks. You want to comment on my post and boost my algorithm, be my guest,
Yeah. They're like embracing hate.
You've got it.
Almost like, I noticed you shared at one point saying about how at one point the hate started to drop down, and then you were like, am I actually doing enough at the moment?
Yeah, because it's actually a key indicator of how well you're doing, right? Because no one's going to comment on someone who's not doing very well and bring them down. It's not something you ever do, right? You're not going to see someone begging on the street and then see comments being like, ha ha, you're poor. You actually don't see it, do you? They're like, wow, well done for your struggle and everything like that. It brings out a different emotion in people. But then you look at someone who's doing well, whether it is someone, like Andrew Tate or something like that, or if it is someone like Donald Trump or anyone that's kind of achieved something and they're in a place where they're changing things that doesn't fully align up, you'll find people wanting to bring them down. And it's not everyone, obviously, but it sparks something in people. When they see someone doing something that they want to be doing, but they can't do, it really brings people into a dark place, I think,
It's just like triggering something inside, and then they're like, right,
theory.
Yeah, I'm going to try and pull them down.
Yeah, because I've never, I get that how that show was portrayed was quite bad for me. But in all honesty, I'm not even trying to cover anything up or anything like that. The show is very heavily edited. There was a lot of that show that I watched back, and I was like, that's not even a conversation that I really had. Everything was skewed, everything was changed. And, I think the kind of person that's going to watch something like that, get an opinion off of it from watching a very short space of time, and then go to the stage where they actually want to confront that person online, you've got to be like some fucking Jeremy Kyle trailer trash motherfucker to do that kind of shit. That's my personal opinion, Like, that motherfucker I saw on TV said that to that guy, I'm going to fucking drop a comment on his... It's like, what the fuck are you? And most of these people are like in the 40s and 50s. I'm like, get a grip, woman,
Yeah, it's crazy. But so, like, with some other people who are on the show, like, it gets damaging for some people, though, right? And that's why, like, the way, even there's a macro level when you've gone on a big TV show, sure. But even like anyone who's showing up online, there's that same almost vulnerability where you have to be willing to take the heat.
You do.
And then that's how you deal with that heat.
Yeah. There's a lot more, knowledgeability, and I don't know if that's a word, but there's a lot more awareness around that actually being a thing. But back when I did it, reality TV wasn't that old, and it was, there was no media training. I didn't know that they were going to heavily edit it. I didn't know that the press were able to just kind of print whatever they wanted without even like, reliable sources. They can just print whatever they want. And yeah, that's kind of the worrying part, because when you go on a show, they lead you to believe that if you're a nice person on there and you say things how you say them, that they'll portray that message out, but they don't. They have an agenda in mind, and they want a role for everyone. They want a villain, they want the good guy, they want the damsel in distress. They want it all because they know what works. And if what you're saying isn't really fitting that narrative, then they'll edit the fuck out of it until it does. That's it. And yeah, it's a real thing. I can remember like a few years after my one, there was some kid who went on there, and then pictures surfaced of him like game hunting in South Africa. Yeah, and he's shot like a fucking elephant or something like that, which obviously sucks. It really does, it's not nice. But then at the same time, I know from knowing that show, I know 1 million percent they knew about that image before he went on, because they check out everyone. There's so much scrutiny involved. They tell you to obviously, like, if there's nothing on there, if there's something on there that you don't want getting out, delete it. For some reason, whatever it was, they let that kid go on there knowing that them images were still out there, because I think they know it just makes the papers, it just builds the show up, that kind of thing. And this poor kid, I don't know what happened to him, but I know that he was getting a very, very hard time, because it's like a thing that people really, really don't like, right?
Yeah. And with because you were on the show when that Mike was on there as well, right?
Mike,
yeah. So what was the journey? Do you think that had an impact in Mike's journey, or?
Mike was such a nice guy. Like, he was the same. He had a hard time going there. He was like a super good looking guy, like 6'5", something like that. Walked on the show. Everyone gave him a hard time because they're threatened by him. It's exactly the same as the trolls. You see someone that's a bit like, I don't know how this makes me feel. It's easier to kind of try and bring that person down. So a lot of the people on the show gave him like a hard time, but I got him with Mike straight away, because he's the kind of person I like. He's like my dad, He's from London. He's no nonsense, no bullshit. You know exactly what you're getting. If he doesn't like something, you're going to know about it. But he's a very genuine, loyal guy. Me and him got on super well. When we came off the show, me and him used to go out all the time. That was probably not my finest days, to be honest with you, because we were getting fucked up a lot.
Yeah.
But they were fun times, and it was just great. And he was just such a nice guy. And I don't know the reasons for why what happened to him happened, because he never fully confided in me. I know before it happened, he had experienced a breakup. There's a lot that happened with that breakup, which I'm not at liberty to talk about, which probably contributed. But, there's some people that say that the business that he started, maybe, or was about to start, he didn't have the money for it. Or there's some people saying, because Mike was making a lot of money from PAs and everything like that, maybe he got hit with a tax bill. There's a lot of different noise. To be totally honest with you, I wish that I knew, because if I'd have known and he confided in me, I might have been able to stop what actually happened. But yeah, I'm not sure. The real, it's probably a combination of things. Yeah.
How was your process, obviously breathing and dealing with that
It was
situation?
just weird. The whole thing was quite, because I couldn't believe it, because to me, because Mike was someone that I looked up to, it looked like he had everything going for him. Never had trouble, with people outside when we got off TV. Everyone liked him. Girls loved him. I'd walk out of it. I was like half decent looking back. I'd walk out with mine. I wouldn't even look at me. He was just one of them guys. He just brought out everyone. He just drew the attention from everyone. And I just never thought that he was in that place where this might be something that we'd ever do, and in such a horrific fashion as well. I can't even imagine the process mentally that he went through in order to, get up there, have everything ready to actually do it. Because it's not like jumping in the bath with a toaster or something like that, This is like a full thing. So I couldn't believe it had happened. I called Sam straight away, Scowland, and I was like, no. I was like, he's been attacked, he's been murdered or something like that. This is before I knew that he'd hung himself. I thought he was dead, but Mike hung around with some dodgy-ish people. I thought, this is definitely someone's killed him. And then when I found out that he'd hung himself, it was not really too much. Someone's not going to drag you up a tree and do that. So it was quite evident what had happened. And I was in shock. I grieved internally for a while, but the thing that really set me off was when the show actually reached out to me. And this really annoyed me, because the show knew how much shit I got when I came off the show. I never got anybody, not that I would have refused it anyway, But then no one ever reached out to me, be like, "Are you doing okay with all this? Like, do you need any help? You need some counselling? You need to talk to anyone?" I never got anything off the show. This show that was looking after everyone's best interest and provided all this aftercare and everything like that, it just didn't exist. It took someone to kill themselves for them to actually pull their finger out and call people up and be like, "Oh, how are you processing it?" And for them, it was just a box being ticked, because they knew that if they didn't do that, the first question that his friends are going to get asked is, "Did someone from the show ever call you to make sure you're all right?" So it really wound me up, and it set me on like a campaign kind of thing to really raise awareness about it. And I risked a lot there, because I think I violated my contract with them potentially by doing that. But at that stage, I just didn't give a shit. I thought, if they sue me for wanting to defend my friend, because for sure there's a lot of people that came off that show who were probably contemplating it at one point or another, who didn't have such a good time. And yeah, I wanted to just kind of raise awareness to people, not just about the mental health of people coming off the show, but for people ever wanting to consider to go on the show, because it's painted in such a different light by these arsehole producers. They're like, never going to be able to walk through a supermarket again without people recognizing you. You're going to make loads of money. They big it up. But the truth of it is, you go on there, they use you. You might be lucky and they use you for someone to be liked. They might use you for someone who's going to get trampled on. But they use you for their own agenda. They toss you to the side when you get off the show. The only reason I have any aftercare now is because there's too many people, like Caroline Flack, Mike. I think someone else from Love Island also killed herself from the first season. And I think there's just too much of it going on for them to not do it. And also the money's not that good anyway. People think you're going to be famous and you're going to have money. You're not. You're not going to make that much money. And you're going to be famous in the sense that people are going to want a selfie with you for 6 months, and then no one's going to recognize you. And the people that do recognize you, they're not going to ask for selfies. They're just going to kind of like casually just take a picture of you and then send it to their mates. And it's not nice. It's not.
On the surface, it seems like, oh, okay, this could actually be a good thing. But I can only imagine the things that come along with high levels of fame. It's like a lot to deal with internally for yourself, right? It's a lot. I'm glad that them parts are over. It went through stages. Like I said, the first 6 months, people are genuinely quite nice, even though I never really, maybe a couple of times in nightclubs or something like that, I never just had someone come up to me in the street and give me shit. They just always just wanted like a selfie. And of course, like, I'm a nice guy, so I'm always like, yeah, of course you can, blah, blah, blah. That was all completely fine. Then as time goes on, you notice that people are like recognizing you, but they don't want to come up to you. Then you get the whole like, someone sees you, be like, Johnny, or something like that. You're out with your family or something. Then you get the thing where people are like just trying to take sly photos. That's where it really got kind of aggravating for me, because I was like, oh God, that someone's kind of watching you. You get anxiety around it. And yeah, they're the parts of it that you don't really like. Like now, things are completely fine because it's been 7 years, but it took a long time to get to that stage, Yeah, and I mean, like from where you were sharing before with social anxiety when you were younger, then to go on a TV show, and then also to do what you're doing now, where you're showing up online and you're doing all of your stuff, being like the front figure of your business. Yeah, it's a journey. That's quite a journey, yeah. It's a journey, and it's the same as anything else. You force yourself into uncomfortable situations, you're going to grow. That's it. You're going to get better at things. You're going to become more comfortable with things. Even after I came off TV, I never used to do like selfie style videos or anything like that because I didn't know how to talk to it. I love doing it now, that kind of thing. But yeah, to go from them stages, it was a lot. The Love Island thing was a huge, huge step for me. And I never considered myself ever doing something like that. I was already successful. I didn't need them. I mean, obviously they don't pay you, but there's a potential for money after it. But I didn't need it. I wasn't in good shape. Genuinely, the first time that I even watched that show was after I'd spoke to the producers. And I was like, wow, I need to get into shape. I need to like actually start going to the gym or something. I just ended up doing that show just because I was in a weird time in my life and didn't actually think I was going to get it. And then when it did happen, I was like, feel like I can either use this as a good opportunity to make money and to turn myself into something a little bit different, maybe get like a public image going, or I can just not do it and then maybe regret it in the future, Because these kind of opportunities, even though they're very common now with like reality TV, not everyone's going to get that opportunity. Not everyone gets a chance to do it. And, I spoke in depth with it with like my dad and, he was like, don't fucking do it. But then when I said, like maybe I can build something out of this coming off, like the trading thing, I wanted to launch a trading company. And I was like, this is going to be excellent traffic for that kind of thing. And yeah, we agreed it was a smart move. So no, I didn't go into it. It's worked out well. Huh? Yeah, it worked out well. Yeah, it's worked out well. For sure. So yeah, we'll like dive into the like financial side of things, because that's one of the things which you've been obsessed with for so long, right?
Sure.
So what would be like your top strategies when it comes to building wealth?
Well, what if you're completely starting out fresh?
Yeah, let's go on. Yeah.
I think if you really want to get to a stage where you're aligned with what you're doing, you're not just going to jump into something just because it makes money. You just have to try a little bit of everything. And I know that's like quite a generic thing to say, but trying to double down and trying to put all your focus on something just because it makes money, eventually you're going to exhaust yourself because you don't actually enjoy it. Try as much as you can, especially when you're young. If you're in your early 20s, don't worry so much about the failure side of things, even though you are inevitably going to worry. Just make sure that you're trying as many different industries as possible. And when you find one that makes good enough money, make sure that you double down on it, make sure that you enjoy it, make sure that everything else runs smoothly, turn it into your main thing, then you can start double downing on it. If it's something that produces quick cash like trading, make sure that you actually use it into some kind of stable investments leading on for that. Trading is not, people think all my money is from trading. It's not, like trading is great to provide quick liquid income if you're good at it. If you know how to actually trade. But all my income, I don't just make all the money and just stick it in the bank, like I put it into real estate, I put it into the stock market, I put it into different things that are going to actually serve me, provide me good, obviously the stock market is taking a bit of a fucking beating right now. Cut that bit out. No, I'm joking. But
Long term.
Long term.
Good,
yeah. You have to have stability and you have to have these long-term things. Like it's a cycle,
Do you set your investments up like, how do you do it risk-wise across?
To be honest with you, if there is a good investment that I see come up, it doesn't matter how much money it's going to cost, I will actually do it. I don't have like one of these 80-20 rules or anything like that. I live to the standard that I want to live. And in terms of investments, if there is good opportunities to come up, I'll just double down on it. As long as I have like my basic, whatever it is to survive every single month, I don't mind, because I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with these investments. I'm buying places in Dubai, I'm building villas in Bali. There's always going to be a market for it unless something drastic happens, So if I was taking like big risky investments, it would be one thing, but I'm not. I'm just putting things that I'm not going to lose if there's like a gigantic crash. I'm not going to lose if the bank wants to keep my money or whatever else,
Yeah, that's cool. It's like having a way to have a cash flow machine, like whether it's trading or like mine was network marketing. It's like a way to create a cash flow machine, and then from there you have a bit more abundance to one, live a good lifestyle, but then also set yourself up and your future family up with some investments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, despite what you might think from looking at like my social media, I don't spend that much every month. My daily.
What about the jets?
The jets and everything like that. Like, they're expensive, but I don't do it every day. This is just like fun tokens. My day-to-day life is very, very easy.
Yeah,
like
nice.
I love my life. I love being at home. I love being with my wife. I love obviously taking trips and everything like that. But like, trading's an interesting one because you don't make the same amount of money every day. Sometimes you make a lot, sometimes you don't make that much, sometimes you take a loss. So it's not like I'm thinking, okay, I need to have that much set on, this particular investment. I need to make this much every single month. I get my money in, I get my cash flow in. I live a very modest life, but I take very expensive trips and I like to go on nice, expensive holidays and buy nice things. But day to day, I don't really spend any money at all. Like it's just one of them things. So when the cash flow is good enough, imagine I've got like, fucking $500,000 sitting there that I don't know what to do with it. That's when I'll be like, okay, what can I invest in now? What can I do? But there's not just like a consistent system. And to be honest with you, I think like there's very few people that probably do have that because income is unpredictable.
Yeah, up and down. And
like I wouldn't bite off an investment that was going to cost me 50 grand a month, like a property or something like that, if I knew that sometimes I make 60 grand a month or sometimes I make 30 grand a month or something like that. I like to collect my cash, and as it comes in, I like to invest it as I go. That's it. As long as I've got enough to sustain me. I'm not a hoarder. I hate having a lot of money sitting around. So that's why there are quite versatile investments, whether it's property in the UK for the care home company, obviously Dubai, Bali, them kind of things, or if it's just something that I'm putting into the stock market or whatever. These are things that work very, very well for me because I don't like having that liquid right there because I'm scared of it. I won't ever keep more than 100 grand liquid actually on hand. Yeah.
Right. Anything over that is like, right, let's
correct.
find an opportunity.
Correct. Yeah.
Obviously,
it does mount up to more than that, but then if I have a particular opportunity in mind, it will all go and I'll only keep the 100 grand reserve. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's having that mindset with cash, where rather than holding on to it, it's like an abundant person would receive and then invest and receive and invest, and it's like a flow, right?
Yeah, I'm scared of having money just sit there because I know the reality of money. I know it's not really worth anything, and with the world the way it is right now, I don't want to be sitting on a load of paper if things go to shit. You know, I want to be sitting on something that I can actually sell. I also invest a lot.
What do you predict will? Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying that. I in terms of like the investments, I know there's certain things like property which are not easily liquidated. But I also invest a lot in precious metals, gold and silver as well, which can be easily liquidated. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, sorry, what was your question?
Where do you predict the economy is going to go?
I think it will get worse. I think things will get worse before they get better. Trump's obviously making like a lot of big moves with these tariffs. I genuinely do think that the outcome will be good in the long run, but it's going to take a long time to get there. You know, like if there's a war, for example, with you know, either Israel, Ukraine, any of these, if these escalate into something a little bit more, it's not going to do your average person any favors. You know, it's going to take things to a difficult level, especially if England gets involved with like a conflict in Russia, for example. You know how things go in war. There's a lot of opportunity to be made, but your average person is not going to benefit from it. So yeah, I think for anyone who's sitting around waiting for the shit to hit the fan, my advice would be invest. And I'm not talking about trading or anything like that. I'm talking about investing in something that's actually stable. If there's a big war that kicks off, gold's going to go through the roof. I don't know if you keep an eye on it, but gold's hit like 50 new all-time highs this year already. It's just sitting like at 3,200 nearly, something like that. So it's very, very solid. Yeah, and that it was below like 2.8 only 4 months ago. That's a huge, huge blast, and that's because of all this controversy going on in the world. So yeah, I do think things are going to get worse. I think if it's isolated to just the Trump tariffs and what's going on with America, things will be fine eventually. This is one of them kind of shit or bust moves like Brexit, you know, like could go all right, but even if it does go all right, it's going to take some time to really reflect, but it could also really hit the fan. If a big war breaks out, there's going to be a lot of problems in the world. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting where it moves.
Yeah. Economy-wise, it's going to be difficult for everyone. Yeah. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a lot of gold, which I do, but no, I'm not rooting for a war. But yeah, let's hope it doesn't get to that point.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the money and financial part, so with your dad, what wisdom was passed down from your dad that you'd be able to share when it comes to finances?
The distrusting of banks and never holding cash is the one big thing that he's always told me. My dad hates banks, and you know, he's obviously experienced the crashes in real time because he had property. He experienced the 2008 crash. That's obviously one thing where he really realized, like, okay, having this money in the bank isn't actually safe. You understand like how banks work with like quantitative easing and that kind of shit, or do you want me to explain it?
Like, go in detail. Yeah.
So like with banks, central banks particularly, they print money into the economy. Yeah, they don't. But there's no like set rules around it or anything like that. If a country needs money, it goes to a central bank. Central bank gives them cash, and quantitative easing is printing money. So when an economy is during a time of turmoil, like a war or something like that, people don't spend money. People hoard their cash, you know, and it creates issues for people. So quantitative easing basically pumps more money into the economy to remedy that. The issue with doing that is the same as it would with anything else. If you've got a brick of gold and that gold is worth something because it's a rare material, if you then find an unlimited supply of gold, the value of that goes to nothing. It works exactly the same with your currency, you know? If you're printing trillions and trillions, the value of your pound might look the same, but what it can actually buy shrinks substantially. So that's why having cash, number one, is not a good idea. Banks also do something called fractional reserve banking. It means that banks aren't actually allowed to hold, I think they are only obliged to hold 10% of what it actually says on a computer. So if there's $1 billion, or let's keep it easy. If there's like $100 in a bank, it's only obliged to keep $1 of it actually on hand.
Crazy.
Yeah. Meaning that if people go into the bank, or if everyone goes into the bank and wants their money out in cash, the bank can't do it. It's physically impossible. So what do they do with the extra, money? What do they do with your money? They lend it out to other people with interest, and then they pay it back with interest. When you get a loan from a bank, you're basically borrowing your own money, and you've got to pay it back with interest. All these things scare me because with the world the way that it is right now, I think a bank will insure you up to 90 grand potentially in the UK, something like that. But anything over that, you've got £1 million in there and there's a crash and the bank goes bust, you are losing everything, absolutely everything. So yeah, I don't like holding cash. It's worthless to me. It's just for like fun. That's it. And I fucking hate banks. They're only really there for, you know, worst case scenarios, that kind of thing. The majority, even the money that I do hold, it's in crypto. Yeah.
Nice.
Much more
Yeah, it's
stable for me.
important though to understand this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're made to think that it's actually safe.
Yeah, it's not.
You know, I'll put your money here. But actually, the reality is,
it's not.
like, it's not safe at all.
I've been seeing a lot more of these videos circulating now of people going into banks in the UK and wanting to withdraw like $2,000, and they're like, "What do you want the money for?"
Yeah,
that kind of shit scares me. I'm like, what business is it of yours? Like, I'm doing you a favor keeping my money in this bank, and you won't let me have it until I tell you what I need it for.
Yeah,
it's bizarre the way that system's going, because the banking system is designed getting people to think that they are privileged to have the bank, but the bank is a business. The bank needs the money. The person can keep their money anywhere, but they don't realize that they can go in there and they don't have to answer these questions. It's kind of such an authoritarian system. I hate it. Really.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I would say like beyond like wealth and money and like the lifestyle and all that, like who is the Jonny behind all of that? And then also like what are the pillars for you that are important for you in your life? Because I know like family is like a core pillar. So it's like beyond all of that, and that is cool. It's fun to experience that stuff. But yeah, like beyond all that, the Jonny.
My core pillars, like enjoyment. I get stressed. Obviously, I'm the same as anyone else. But when I know that I'm getting to a point where it's affecting my happiness in life, that's when I know to pull things back. Happiness is very important to me. That's why I'm with my wife. You know, she's like the least like aggravating person. We get on super well. We have like a very good life with each other, and we're able to live in harmony throughout the days with minimal stress. So I never like to let things interfere with that, no matter how busy work is. Happiness is a big one. Freedom is huge for me, as we've kind of already covered. You know, I don't like to be tied down to any place. I like to know that we're able to go and do what we want and live the life that we want without people kind of trying to shut us down on certain things. Family is a huge one. You know, I think I told you earlier, I got a kid on the way as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an entirely new realignment of my values and my pillars and everything else. And yeah, that's it. Like I just want to be a happy person. I want a nice life. I want to be around people that I trust. I'm a little bit wary with most people. I'm not a huge social person, but the people that are in my circle, I'm very good. I'm very loyal. I look after everyone, whether they're friends, family, or whatever else. And that's it for me. I just want to create that little ecosystem for myself where I'll support people who need the support. We all live happy. We do what we want. And yeah, that for me, that's the dream, really.
Yeah, because it's like that. We were chatting about it earlier, where we said like beyond. Like there's these different parts of ourselves where it's like one part is like, right, let's create this like this epic lifestyle and travel, and then there's this other part that's like, hey, let's just like retreat to like a farm and, you know, make all your own food and all that stuff.
It. Yeah, in a sense, I'm trying to create the ultra luxury version of the farm. I'm trying to get myself to a point of wealth where I can kind of like get rid of anything that I don't want to do, go and buy the farm, but it's going to be a big fucking house on the farm as well. And then just have the people that I care about around me. And just, you know, if we want to go take holidays, we'll go take holidays. If we want to like have a big Christmas at mine, we can do that. So yeah, it's actually a good observation that you made there, because yeah, like the farm idea is like the one where you just completely relieve yourself of any social pressure. And it's like, I'm going to self-sustain. I'm going to be happy with just the things that I really need. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about the car. I've got food. I've got people that I love. And that's the most important things. It's about getting to a stage where I can build that, have the money there if I need it, but also use it to create the luxury version of that farm. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Like the high-end farm.
The high-end farm.
Yeah, with like the mansion.
Correct, yeah.
Like acres and acres of land.
It's funny how that's full circle, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, I'm actually just kind of going through the luxury wealth building stage to get back to the stage that I would do if I didn't have any money.
It's so true, yeah. Yeah.
It's funny.
It is like full circle.
Never looked at it from that perspective before, but yeah, that's kind of the dream. So.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, and it's like options then, it's choices, and actually going back to those core pillars of what is truly important beyond the wealth. It's like when we say money, like money has for different people has like a like that triggers something for some people, or for others it's like money freedom. But actually, that money opens doors to be able to create.
It does. It does. You know my wife, obviously, but when we first met, we had such different ideas with money. It was like very interesting for me to see it from her point of view and her to see it from my point of view. Like she never liked it when I'm a money guy. Like if I like someone, I'm going to buy you shit and take you away and stuff like that. It was very odd for her to experience it, and it's taken her a long time to fully just kind of relax and just accept that's just who I am. And for me, on the flip side, it was interesting me seeing her in a way where she didn't give a fuck about money. She couldn't care less. She still kind of doesn't, you know. When we travel, I'm like, okay, let's fly business or first, and she's like, no, she's like, save the money, and like, baby, come on, give me a fucking break, and stuff like that. You know, where we live, I fell in love with it because it's like a kick-ass apartment. You know, it's probably the best one in the city. And for her, she's like, yeah, but do we really need it? Like, you know, why don't we just pick somewhere that's got a little bit of land and I'll keep my horse there? And I'm like, no.
It's beautiful though, because like almost there's like a groundedness to things as well. Like keeps you
for sure
the perspective there of like actually the fact that you're with someone who you know it has that perspective is actually pretty cool. You know,
it does ground things.
Yeah.
It's
rather than someone who's like, I think we should fly first class.
Yeah. I'm naturally wary of them kind of women, you know what I mean? Where I see it with my mates and they're like, oh, no, we won't get that one. We'll get that one, like the expensive. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit worried. But it's actually, you know, teaches you a lot as well about relationships, because I always thought that you should have a lot in common with the person you're with. I don't really have anything in common with somebody.
That's so interesting.
But it's the best functioning relationship I've ever been in my life. We don't argue. We literally live day to day in harmony. When there's a disagreement about what we want to do, we discuss it, we talk it out, we make shit work no matter what. So yeah, it's very healthy.
That's so interesting. Yeah, what would you say is the biggest difference for you from like the patterns, or what makes that up compared to like things that you've experienced before?
What with relationships?
In relationships.
Yeah. Well,
I think that is the having a loving, intimate relationship which is growing it brings so much to life.
It does. I think there's just, with the past relationships that I've been on, they've been based mainly on like aesthetics. You know, I'd see a good-looking girl or something like that, and I always just wanted like a particular look. At that stage, I don't think I really paid too much attention to what they were even like. I don't know if I even got to know them that well. I liked them when they were fun. I've always gone for crazy girls, you know, always in my past. That's a big red flag as it is. It's fun for like 6 months, and then after that, you're like, oh. But yeah, like the fundamental differences are trust, for sure. I can remember my relationships being very, very untrustful, you know, as in like if I wanted to go and do something that was outside of our usual bubble, there was a lot of like, oh, well, you know, where are you going? What are you doing? If I needed to take a trip, it would be like a huge issue. And I ended up adopting a lot of that as well. I was portraying the same shit to my old relationships. It became very, very toxic. If there was arguments, there would always be, you know, huge blow-ups. I used to drink a lot as well, and so did all my partners before, which is a fucking big no-no, I've realised. Simone doesn't drink. I still drink every now and then, but I don't want to because I'm not with someone that drinks.
Yeah.
So I don't get home. I don't want to drink a glass of wine in front of someone who doesn't drink and whatever else. So yeah, I think the main thing is just trust, understanding, and the willingness to actually get over things. I think like you get it a lot these days. I speak to my friends sometimes and they're in relationships and they're like, oh, she did this the other day. You know what? I'm not even sure that I want to like be with this person and stuff like that over something reasonably trivial. Whereas a relationship that I've got, that's not something I'd even call into question ever. You know, there'd be so many severe things that would happen in order for me to question my relationship. But anything else is trivial. We work through it. We get over it, you know, rather than just being like, oh, that happened. That's it. I need to start thinking about something else, that kind of thing. It's too easy to hop, skip and jump to different relationships right now. I think that's it. Rather than people working on things.
Yeah, and it takes work, doesn't it? Like a relationship to build those foundations of like trust, honesty, having that communication, being at peace with one another. Like it's almost like building a house. Like this villa you've built. Yeah. Like off that villa the foundation's the most important piece, right? It
is, and I've never experienced it before. That's why I know how fortunate I am, because you know, I've dated a lot. And I've, you know, had girlfriends and stuff like that. I know how rare it is to be in a relationship where you don't argue with each other and kind of things are worked on, they're understood, nothing's bad. You know, I can't ever say anything that's going to offend her. She can't ever say anything that's going to offend me. And that's like, it's very, very healthy. It is. I'm sticking with it. So, well, we're married, so
yeah, that's it. Chose a good one.
Chose a good one. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Nice, bro. So the final bit I wanted to touch on like meaning for you, like meaning and purpose of like, I know it's a bit deep, but why do you actually, I don't know why this is coming to me right now, but why do you think we're actually here? Like, what do you think the meaning is?
God, yeah. You know, what's the usual thing that people say? It's, you know, to reproduce and kind of further the species. But
I'm curious on what you think. Yeah, like where.
For me, genuinely, and I've always had this, I think, I'm not sure why we're here, but I know 100% that we have to be happy, because I don't believe that there's necessarily going to be an afterlife. I believe in energy transfers and everything like that, but I think you here right now, the way you are, you're never going to be here again in the same form. You're never going to have the same memories or anything like that. So that's why when things like tax come up, that's where I get the twig, because I'm like, we're on the rock, we're spinning in the middle of fucking nowhere, in the galaxy, in the universe, and you've got some guy who's telling you that you have to pay tax and do this and not do that. For me, it's nuts. I think if you have to step outside the box, whether people like it or not, do it. Do what's going to make you happy. Enjoy your life as much as possible. Make sure that you understand that even the negative parts of your life are all the flavor, you know? There's things that happened to me that I thought were crippling a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, you know, that I laugh about now, you know, and I'm like, wow, that taught me such good things. I think we're here to enjoy, be grateful, and really just have the best time, and just make sure that we are really, really, really doing everything and maximizing our time here. In terms of our purpose, who fucking knows? Maybe it is to reproduce. To be honest, I don't care. As long as I'm kind of doing what I need to do to enjoy what time I have here on this earth and pass on the message to my younger generations, that's what I'm going to do. I don't want my kids to be like, well, I did fucking 6 years in med school or something like that just to get this because my dad wanted me to do it. No, I want them to be in a position where they can choose what's going to make them happy and live the best life and enjoy things. You know, I get stressed, but I love what I do. That's the thing. I love it. I wouldn't change it. I've been in places where I didn't like what I did and I left it, which you know anyway. So but yeah. I don't know if that's the right answer you wanted, to be honest.
It's just interesting.
What do you think? I'm interested in what you think.
Yeah,
why are we here?
I think when it comes to purpose, I perceive purpose as that is the meaning we give something. So anything can have a deeper level of purpose based on the meaning that we apply to it in any moment. Like this conversation, let's just use it as an example, or the person listening, they could just view it as another conversation if that's the meaning that they assign to it. Or like if the meaning that was assigned is, oh wow, like this is a transformative conversation and I'm gonna take the pieces and implement it and this is gonna change my life. True. Suddenly it's like the same conversation, but it's there's a deeper level of purpose.
No, that's profound,
Sure. So and that can shift in every aspect. It could be like you could change even like a walk to the shop. If you like add loads of meaning to it, suddenly it's a purposeful walk. So someone who's lacking purpose, I would just say that they need to assign better meanings to what they're doing. I agree. I guess based on that, it's the journey, enjoying the journey, whether it's shit or whether it's good, it's all gonna mean something or not mean something in the end. You know, you just got to make the best out of it, glass half full, etc., etc. And then at the end, it's like, fuck knows what happens. But then that's why we're here. It's like cultivating great relationships with people, which I think is at the core of. We're interconnected. It's like the deeper relationships we have with those around us, the more meaning gets created in life, and just having fun as well. It's so important. That's underrated, isn't it?
Exactly. Like enjoy it. Why not? You can be upset about anything. I get upset about things all the time, but it doesn't last long. You know, I'm able to reposition my perspective, and I realize, you know, life's good, and just enjoy yourself, because fucking hell, everything can change in a blink of an eye.
Oh mate, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me in your villa.
No worries, my pleasure. Good to see you.
Quality.